You awaken to the pale, ash-colored light of dawn filtering through the paper-paned wooden window of your small room. If it's still too early, the only illumination comes from the flickering flame of an oil lamp, casting dancing shadows on the bare walls. This room, perhaps a shared space in the modest quarters assigned to low or mid ranking eunuchs, is simple. The air is still, carrying the faint scent of old wood, perhaps a lingering trace of ink if you've been practicing your letters, or the subtle aroma of medicinal herbs if you, or someone nearby, often use them. It can feel a little stuffy. The first sounds to greet you are the soft rustlings of others stirring in adjacent rooms, or even within your own if you share it. A dry, quiet cough. Further off, the distant crow of a rooster heralding the new day, the hurried footsteps of other palace servants already about their duties. Perhaps the faint, resonant chime of a temple bell, or the rhythmic beat of a watchman's drum. The early morning air is cool, especially if it's autumn or winter, and you feel a distinct chill from the thin bamboo mat or straw pallet beneath your back. A familiar weariness settles upon you, a heaviness born from sleep that was likely neither deep nor entirely restful. Your body might ache slightly. Your first conscious thoughts are of the day's duties, the need to please your masters, the constant imperative to avoid any misstep, however small. A vague, persistent anxiety about your precarious position within these palace walls is a constant companion. You've grown accustomed to the rhythm of palace life, a routine that offers little hope for significant change, and so a sense of resignation, of acceptance, also surfaces. Yet sometimes a tiny flicker of hope ignites, a wish for a peaceful day, perhaps the chance of a favored dish at mealtime, or a small word of praise from a superior. You rise and begin your preparations. You wash your face with cool water from a copper or earthenware basin. It might be warmed if you hold a slightly better position, or if the winter chill is particularly biting. You rinse your mouth with salt water or a weak infusion of green tea. If you still have hair, styled in the manner prescribed for eunuchs, you comb it carefully with a wooden or horn comb, ensuring it is neat and tidy. Then you dress in your eunuch's attire, a long robe of plain linen or common silk, its color subdued and dignified, perhaps a shade of blue, gray, or light brown, depending on your rank and the palace regulations. You ensure every fold is smooth, every tie secure. Impeccable presentation is paramount. Breakfast, if it is provided, is simple. A bowl of thin white rice porridge, baijiu, perhaps accompanied by a small helping of pickled vegetables, salted peanuts, or a couple of small plain steamed buns. A cup of hot tea, its slight bitterness welcome, warms your stomach. The flavors are bland, unexciting. The meal is taken quickly, often alone in your room or in a communal dining area for eunuchs, where the atmosphere is usually quiet and orderly. This food is not for pleasure, but for sustenance, to provide the energy needed for the long day ahead. Your first major duty of the day often involves attending to a scholar official, perhaps a young, studious prince, an unmarried princess with a quiet disposition, or a respected academician within the Hanlon Academy. You begin by preparing their study or private chamber. You move with quiet efficiency, sweeping the polished wooden floors, ensuring every scroll, every brush, every ornament is precisely in its place. You light a stick of fragrant sandalwood incense, its subtle perfume slowly filling the air, chasing away any lingering staleness. You check the paper windows, adjusting them to allow for the best light and a comfortable temperature. Then comes the ritual of serving tea. You select the tea leaves with care, perhaps a delicate green tea for a clear morning, or a more robust oolong if your master prefers it, and brew it according to the precise, time honored methods. The water must be at the perfect temperature, the steeping time exact. You present the tea in a fine porcelain or jade cup, your movements graceful and unobtrusive. If your master intends to write or paint, you prepare the four treasures of the study: the inkstone, the inkstick, the brushes of varying sizes, and the fine Schwan paper. You grind the inkstick against the stone, adding water drop by drop until the ink is smooth, black, and fragrant. You lay out the brushes, their soft animal hair tips pristine. Throughout this, you remain a silent, observant presence. You might be tasked with relaying minor messages within the household or arranging your master's robes and adornments if they are preparing for an audience or an outing. The challenges are subtle but constant. You must maintain an attitude of utmost reverence and caution in every word, every gesture. You learn to anticipate your master's needs, to understand their moods and desires without them needing to articulate everything. The pressure to avoid any error, any perceived slight is immense. A dropped teacup, a misplaced document, a moment of inattention, any could bring swift and unpleasant consequences. Your skills lie in discretion, tact, and an impeccable memory for your master's habits and preferences. A quiet demeanor and keen observational abilities are your greatest assets. Perhaps a rudimentary knowledge of literature or calligraphy allows you to serve more effectively, to anticipate which scroll might be requested, or to appreciate the subtle beauty of a newly composed poem. You see the intricate details of your master's world: the exquisite porcelain, the gleaming lacquerware, the delicate silk paintings adorning the walls, the folding screens that create intimate spaces. You observe the rich flowing robes of your master, the soft, natural light filtering through the paper windows or the warm glow of lanterns. You hear the soft rustle of silk, the gentle turning of pages in a book, the whisper of a brush against paper. Sometimes there are quiet conversations, the murmur of poetry being recited, or the distant melancholic notes of a kin. Your own footsteps are nearly silent on the smooth floors. The air is filled with the delicate fragrance of sandalwood, the fresh scent of flowers arranged in a vase, the earthy aroma of newly ground ink, and the clean, grassy perfume of fine tea. You feel the cool smoothness of a jade teacup in your hands, the yielding softness of silk, the polished surface of dark, aged wood. Your interactions are carefully circumscribed. With your master, you maintain a respectful distance, an attitude of complete subservience. You listen to commands, respond briefly and clearly, and try to interpret their wishes through subtle cues: a glance, a slight frown, a wave of the hand. With other eunuchs or palace maids, there might be a degree of cooperation in your duties, but also an undercurrent of unspoken rivalry. Communication is often through discreet glances or subtle gestures, a language unspoken but universally understood within these walls. A maelstrom of thoughts and emotions churns beneath your calm exterior. Intense concentration is required to perform your duties flawlessly. A persistent fear of making a mistake, of incurring displeasure and punishment is never far away. Sometimes, A quiet pride in serving within such esteemed circles might surface, a fleeting sense of importance. Other times, a poignant sadness about your own station, your altered life, washes over you. You become a keen observer of your master's life, of the intricate web of relationships and power dynamics that play out in the rarefied atmosphere of the palace. Later in the day, your duties might shift. Perhaps you are assigned to manage and organize items in one of the palace storehouses, a repository for fine silks, precious porcelain, or rare books. Here, you meticulously count bolts of shimmering brocade, carefully catalog delicate vases, or arrange ancient scrolls on tall wooden shelves. You keep detailed records in ledgers, your brushstrokes neat and precise. You ensure the storeroom is clean, dry, and free from the threat of mildew or insects. You report on the inventory to your supervising eunuch. This work can be monotonous, demanding meticulous attention to detail. You must be ever so careful not to damage the valuable items entrusted to your care. The storerooms themselves can be dimly lit and somewhat stuffy. Your value here lies in your diligence, your organizational skills, and your honesty. A good memory for the location of specific items is crucial. Basic literacy and numeracy are essential for maintaining the ledgers accurately. Within the quiet confines of the storeroom, you are surrounded by stacks of vibrant silks in every conceivable color, crates of porcelain carefully wrapped in protective cloth, and towering shelves laden with scrolls tied with silken ribbons. The light is often dim, filtering through small, high windows or provided by flickering oil lamps. The predominant sound is the soft rustle of fabric as you move items, the gentle turning of pages in your ledger, or simply the profound silence of a place filled with inanimate treasures. The air carries the scent of new cloth, the faint aroma of sandalwood or camphor used to deter insects, the dry, papery smell of old books, and sometimes a slight musty odor if dampness has begun to creep in. You feel the smooth, cool surface of silk, the cold, hard glaze of porcelain, the rough texture of the rice paper used for your records. Interactions here are usually less frequent. You might work alongside a few other eunuchs, or report directly to a senior eunuch in charge of the stores. In the relative quiet and solitude of the storeroom, you may find more space for your own thoughts, for fleeting memories of a life before the palace, or for quiet contemplation on the strange turns your life has taken. The weight of responsibility for these valuable goods is a constant, but so too is a certain detached appreciation for the beauty and craftsmanship they represent. The day, however, is rarely without its unexpected turns. Perhaps, in a moment of distraction, you accidentally drop a precious teacup and it shatters on the floor. Or another eunuch, driven by jealousy or a desire to curry favor, might try to shift blame for their own mistake onto you. You might, while moving silently through a corridor, overhear a fragment of a whispered, secret conversation, information that could be dangerous if your presence is discovered, or potentially advantageous if you are clever enough to use it wisely. Your master might suddenly erupt in an uncharacteristic fit of temper over some trivial matter, and you must find a way to soothe them or simply endure their wrath. Or conversely, a powerful figure within the palace might notice your diligence and assign you a special, unexpected task, a task that could lead to advancement or to peril. Your heart would pound in your chest, a surge of adrenaline making your hands tremble, you'd struggle to maintain your composure, to think clearly and quickly. Do you confess the accident immediately and beg for mercy? Do you try to subtly deflect the false accusation? Do you pretend you heard nothing of the secret conversation, or do you weigh the risks and potential rewards of revealing it? With an angry master, your instinct is to be even more obsequious, more compliant, to avoid escalating the situation. An unexpected assignment from a person of power would fill you with a mixture of trepidation and a cautious, hopeful curiosity. In every instance, your survival depends on your ability to navigate these treacherous currents with astuteness and an unwavering outward display of loyalty and humility. As the afternoon sun begins its descent, casting long, mellow shadows across the courtyards and painted eaves of the palace, your official duties for the day start to wind down. You complete your final assigned tasks, perhaps tidying your master's study one last time, ensuring all scrolls are properly stored, or delivering a final discreet message. If you are in the storerooms, you make sure everything is secure, the ledgers updated and put away. You might need to give a brief report to a supervising eunuch or directly to your master, detailing the day's work or any pertinent observations, always choosing your words with care. Then, with a respectful bow, you are dismissed. You make your way back to the eunuch's living quarters, your footsteps echoing softly in the quieter corridors. The air cools as evening approaches, carrying the distant sounds of the palace preparing for night, the clatter of kitchen activities, the changing of the guard, perhaps the faint strains of music from a distant banquet. Dinner is a similarly modest affair to breakfast, though perhaps with a little more substance, if the day has been favorable. It might be the same white rice porridge, or perhaps some steamed rice accompanied by a small dish of stir-fried vegetables, and on a fortunate day, a tiny portion of fish or preserved meat. You might eat in the quiet solitude of your own small room, or in the communal dining hall with other eunuchs. Here, conversations are usually hushed, a low murmur of voices discussing trivialities, or sometimes more cautiously, the subtle politics and happenings within the palace walls. You listen more than you speak, ever mindful that ears are everywhere. The evening offers a brief respite, a few precious hours that are, to some extent, your own. Rest is paramount. Your body aches from the long hours of standing, walking, and meticulous work. You might sit quietly in your room, gently massaging your tired legs and feet. For entertainment, options are limited but cherished. If you are literate and possess a few scrolls, perhaps a classic text, a volume of poetry, or even a manual on strategy if your interests lie there, you might read by the dim light of an oil lamp. Or you could practice your calligraphy, the repetitive, meditative strokes of the brush, a soothing balm to a weary mind. A quiet game of Go with a trusted fellow eunuch, played on a simple board with smooth, cool stones, can offer a welcome distraction. Sometimes, you simply sit by your paper window, gazing at the moon if it's visible, its silvery light a stark contrast to the intricate man-made world of the palace. Some eunuchs cultivate quiet, personal hobbies, tending to a small potted plant, perhaps a miniature plum tree, or keeping a caged songbird whose cheerful notes offer a brief illusion of nature and freedom. Personal tasks might include mending your robes, carefully stitching a loose seam, or patching a small tear. If you are one of the very few who are permitted and able to maintain contact with family far away. You might painstakingly compose a letter, your words carefully chosen, knowing it will be read by censors before it ever leaves the palace walls. Interactions with family are, for most eunuchs, a thing of the past. The act of becoming a servant of the palace often meant a severing of old ties, or at least a vast, unbridgeable distance. A dull ache of homesickness, a longing for faces and places you may never see again, can be a constant, though often suppressed, companion. Friendships, however, can be forged within these walls. You may have a few trusted confidants among your fellow eunuchs, individuals with whom you share a bond of understanding and mutual support, born from shared experiences and the unique hardships of your lives. With them, in the privacy of your antechambers, you might exchange quiet words, share small confidences, or offer silent comfort. But even these relationships are navigated with caution, for suspicion and rivalry are as much a part of palace life as the silken robes and jade ornaments. Trust is a rare and precious commodity. As true night settles over the vast expanse of the palace, your small room becomes our haven of deeper quiet. The oil lamp, if you still have it lit, is turned down low, its flame casting a soft, flickering glow that barely pushes back the encroaching shadows. The air grows cooler, carrying the faint, distant sounds of the sleeping palace, perhaps the lonely call of a night bird, or the even more distant, almost imperceptible rhythm of a watchman's patrol. A profound weariness settles into your bones, the culmination of a long day of service and vigilance. There's a rare sense of release, a moment when the mask of servitude can be, if not entirely removed, at least loosened. Yet this solitude can also amplify feelings of loneliness, a quiet melancholy that is often your unwelcome companion in these late hours. You lie down on your simple pallet, the straw or bamboo mat cool beneath you. Your mind, now free from the immediate demands of your duties, begins to wander. You might replay the day's events, the tasks accomplished, any small successes, any perceived slights or mistakes, the subtle shifts in your master's mood, the fleeting expressions on the faces of those you interacted with. Did you perform well? Did you avoid offense? These are the constant nagging questions. Deeper anxieties may surface. Thoughts of your altered body, the life you were forced to leave behind, the future that stretches before you, uncertain and largely out of your control. The physical pain of your castration has long since faded, but the psychological scars, the sense of being fundamentally different, may still linger, a dull ache in your soul. You ponder your place in this intricate, often treacherous world of the court. If there is hope, it is often a quiet, pragmatic kind, perhaps a desire for a more peaceful existence within the palace walls, a modicum of respect from those you serve and those you serve alongside. Maybe you dream of accumulating enough savings through careful stewardship of any small gratuities to ensure a comfortable, if solitary, old age, though this is a distant and difficult prospect for most. Some eunuchs find solace in religious devotion. The teachings of Buddhism, with its emphasis on detachment and compassion, were prevalent during the Song Dynasty, and you might find comfort in quiet meditation or the recitation of sutras. Your body, at last, begins to yield to exhaustion. The aches in your back and legs, a constant reminder of the day's exertions, start to dull. There's a profound relief in simply lying still, in letting go. Slowly, gradually, you drift towards sleep. your mind quieting, preparing for another day, another cycle of service and survival within the imposing gilded cage of the imperial palace.